Hi everyone, my name is Courtney, and today I'm going to be doing my April wrap-up. So for the past couple months, I've been doing wrap-ups in this format with a voiceover while I journal about the books I've read. I really like it. It gives me time to reflect on my reading, even in just a very shallow sense, and it's just really comforting and fun to do at the end of every month, even if these videos don't get very many views. To be honest, I don't get a lot of views on my channel anyway, so that's not super important to me. But I will say, if this format is not super accessible to people, or if you think a regular wrap-up format would be better, let me know, because I am willing to change it up to go back to a different style. But anyway, let's get into the books that I read this month. I thought April was going to be a horrible reading month. I started off really slow. I wasn't reading anything besides what I had to read for class. I just wasn't in the mood. Nothing was really interesting me. I just didn't want to. And so I didn't. I played Stardew Valley. I just watched anime and did nothing. And I think that was a really good, smart decision, because I had a lot of work to do with my thesis. I had a lot of writing to do for that thesis and for my class. And so it was just nice to not have to read, to think about reading. I think that break really helped, because I came back really strong at the end of the month and I ended up reading a lot of stuff that I really did enjoy. So I'm glad I took a break, and I'm glad that at the end of the month I actually ended up reading a lot more than I thought I would have. So the first couple books I read, as I said, were for school. So I read The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead at the beginning of this month, end of last month. This is a historical fiction novel that is fictionalizing / remarking on historical events that have happened. I don't know if that's the best way to describe it, but basically it's a fictionalized story but inspired by real events that have happened. And the story is all about this gruesome school that took in boys and basically mentally, physically abused them, especially their Black population during the Jim Crow South. A lot of this stuff really did happen, and I really liked Colson Whitehead's fictionalized interpretation of the events and what he had to say about them. It was just really, really fascinating. I didn't love this book. I gave it a 4 stars, but I do think it's really impactful and really important for people to read. The next book I read for school was The Remains of the Day by Kazu Ishiguro. This is a Nobel Prize winning novel. It's very well loved, very well received, and it's basically about a butler who is kind of reminiscing about the past of World War II, and kind of unraveling himself and just his life. Just all the craft stuff of this novel, everything about the butler and his life, just everything about the narration, the point of view, the craft stuff is where this book really was astounding to me and really well done. But to be honest, just on an enjoyment level, it was fine. It just didn't do anything special for me, to be honest. The next book I read was Monsters of Men by Patrick Ness. This is a young adult sci-fi dystopian series. I guess that's what you would call it. It's very genre bending. This is the 3rd book in the series, and I actually did a whole discussion video talking about the series. And it was really interesting to do that video, because what I talked about is that this book was written in 2008, I believe, is when it started being written, which is so long ago, and the YA genre has changed so much, our world has changed so much, how we talk about things has changed so much, and just kind of thinking about if this book stands the tests of time, and if it still works today. And it was just a really fun discussion. I definitely would check out that video if you're interested. I really, really enjoyed making it and just talking about all the stuff in the book. This series ultimately just wasn't for me. I thought it was kind of subpar. It was trying to do a lot, and it is different than a lot of other YA novels, but at the end of the day, I just didn't love it as a series, and I ended up giving this a 3 stars, just because I do think it was one of the weaker books in the series, because it was just so long and arduous to get through. Yeah, it's a fascinating series, and I definitely recommend either reading it for yourself or checking out my thoughts about it in the video I made. So just to talk through really quickly what I'm doing. So on the last page, I just did kind of snippet little pieces. I didn't really have anything profound to say this time around, so I just wrote little short things about each of the books that I read. And then on this page, I am doing kind of just a more general page for myself. I just wanted to write some thoughts about what I was feeling this month about reading. Doing a lot of writing, but not really reading that much, not feeling enjoyment from reading, is just something that I was struggling with this month, like I said, so I just wanted to write about it and talk about it. But going back into the novels themselves, the next couple of books I had read were mangas. This, I think, really helped kickstart myself back into reading because, you know, they're fun, they're quick, they're comics. I know these stories very well, so it was very nice to read something so familiar. So the first thing I read was Kimi no Todake. Kimi no Todake is a YA shoujo story. It's a high school love story, basically high school friendship story. I've watched the anime several times, I've read the manga online, and I just wanted to get the first volume and read it and just kind of put it on my shelf as like a part of my collection. I'm not planning on getting the entire series, but I have read it all and I really enjoy the series. This story does have a concept, and that is that the main girl looks like the character from The Ring, and people are just very scared of her and they make a lot of assumptions about her. This story is a lot about what people assume about others and kind of learning to unveil, you know, the masks that people put on in public, and about getting past assumptions that people make about others. All the friends that Sawako makes are, you know, have rumors about them or have assumptions about them, and so it's kind of like a softening of those characters as she reveals what they're really like and reveals what she's really like. So it's a very sweet, fun story, and I highly, highly recommend it. And the other manga I read was Yona of the Dawn, Volume 28. This is a series I am currently collecting because it is one of my favorite YA shoujo series. It is a fantasy, it's epic, and it's great for character building, and I love it so much. Every time I think that I get tired of the series or that I'm past it or that I want to break from it, I just read a new volume and I instantly connect with it and get sucked back into the world. I really need to do a full reread of the series to really get entrenched back in it, but I really do love these characters and where this story is going, and I'm nervous and excited for what's about to happen next. And the final book I read this month was A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. This is the first book in a companion sci-fi series. This is one of the books that I've always wanted to read, especially as I journey into adult fantasy and sci-fi. This is like I don't want to say slower paced, but it's a softer sci-fi story. It's not about these epic space battles. It's not about a war, really. There's all that stuff kind of hidden under the surface, but the main plot line is really just about this space crew going on this journey and kind of their relationships and dynamics and friendships and everything, and it's exactly what I wanted. It has the sci-fi elements, but it's not too hard on those. It has politics and everything, but it's not really focused on that. It's just focused on this insular crew that does basically like construction work for the galaxy, and I loved it so much. Also, it's queer, so, you know, there you go. There's a lot of diversity in the alien cast as well, and I loved it so much, and I highly, highly recommend it. But yeah, as far as reading goes, that's what I ended up reading this month. So A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet ended up being my favorite book of this month out of 4.5 stars. You know, I ended up reading a lot more than I thought I was, especially at the beginning of this month, and it's really kickstarted my love and enjoyment of reading again. And I'm just so excited to get back into reading at a regular pace. I've only read 15 books this year, which for me is just not my usual pace. So it's nice to kind of slowly ease back into it as I have time. But yeah, I think that does it for this video. So thank you so much for watching and listening. Let me know if you've read something that just really touched you. I'll talk to you guys later, and happy reading.